Hello and thanks for joining us for our brand new show, Spotlight On. I'm your host, Mike Kaiser, and it's our goal to bring you real people sharing real stories. We want to hear what makes them tick, what bits of wisdom they can bring to us, how they can entertain us. Sometimes it might be a business owner, sometimes it might be a nonprofit leader, or it could be an artist, who knows. But tonight we are very, very lucky to have as our first guest on Spotlight On, longtime singer-songwriter, Mr. Brian McDonald. Thanks a million for joining us tonight.
Great being here.
It's
Thanks
great to have you here. And I know a lot of people watching are going to be familiar with you. You've been around, you've been in the music business a couple of years now, haven't you?
This is my 50th.
Your 50th year in the music business.
Yeah, as a professional. Yeah.
Wow. Too bad we only have a half hour. We could have a lot to talk about. And I do want to go back to some of that history. But let's start with the present, because you just put out a brand new record called This Is How It Feels. And I've been listening to it, and I was wondering why this record right now?
Well, I wanted to do a record that captured where I was at right now. I've made many records over the years through many different record deals, production deals. And you would always have a tendency to put your album together with a couple of these, a couple of those, and here's a little something to lighten the mood. And it's almost like putting together a set, right?
Yeah.
And so the album, to my mind, would be diluted in its intent. Whereas this one, I just had one strong intent, okay? I'm a guy the age I am. And the longer you live, it seems that the more you have an appreciation for the miracle of life, the joy of being alive, okay? It means so much more the older you get. But at the same time, you've lived a long time and you have baggage, things that you carry with you no matter what you do. Regrets, choices you made, you would do things differently. People you miss, people who've walked out of your life, all these things. And so at the same time you're joyous and appreciating life, you are still conscious of this baggage. And how do you live with this dichotomy? Happy, yeah. And I just went, that's the whole story of the album. That's what it is. That's what life is when you get older. And I just stayed relentless. So there was no song thrown in to make the other people happy. It was just relentless. This is the album. And I said to the producer, Rick Hanville, my co-producer, marvelously talented guy, I said to him, you know, this album is what it's like. This is how it feels. And he looked at me and he said, you ought to call the album This Is How It Feels. And I said, you're right, that's it. And so that's why it is.
So, and I have so many things to ask you. We could spend the whole half hour on the record, but one of the things I noticed, I wonder if this is on purpose. I would imagine it was, that it feels like a lot of the songs are dealing with the things in life that you have to deal with losing as time goes on, but yet it ends with a song, I've Got Friends, that seems to, I don't know, is it kind of making it say you keep on keeping on, you deal with life and be happy anyway? What was the point of that?
You got the point of it, actually. I think as you get older, yeah, one of the main things you have to deal with is the things you lose. Because sooner or later, the longer you live, well, from what I've seen, everything is taken from you. The things you value most, everything starts to be taken away till you're back to the beginning where it was just you, okay? So that was a very important part of it, you know, loss of different kinds and how to deal with it. And I couldn't get off the subject.
Interesting. Now, well, that was another question I had. I remember an interview with Billy Joel where somebody asked him, are all the songs you write about you? And he said they couldn't possibly be. You know, they couldn't possibly all be about me. Are some of your songs just fictional things that you've made up? Or some of them about other people? Do they all have I know that's a tough one, but do they all have a story that you relate to?
They're all, for me, they're all me, my story, my outlook on something, my opinion, and especially on this one, those are all real stories. Sometimes in my albums, they're so real, they're so accurate, it's literally all I had to do was describe what happened in front of me, and I have the song.
Okay.
Okay?
Do you wake up, so is the songwriting process for you, is it a process, or do you wake up one morning with a tune in your head, or maybe a couple of verses of lyrics, or is there not really a typical way that you come up with a tune?
Something comes to me. It comes from out there. I don't ever even view myself as writing the song. I receive something. Mm-hmm. Okay? I receive something. It comes. Sometimes it's a phrase. Sometimes it's a little melody with the phrase, which is a gift. Sometimes it's a melody that repeats itself over and over, and then a word or two will attach itself to it. But yeah, they're pretty much, they are pretty much me. I don't write a lot of, too many third person, here's a story I'm going to tell you, okay?
Yeah.
I do have one on the album, but it's actually me. So
Okay.
I disguise it as someone else,
Okay.
but it's really me.
Well, so they are all meaningful to you, and so I want to switch gears a little bit because I know that you were a salaried songwriter for Warner Brothers for
Yeah.
several years. You've written on movie soundtracks. I think you've written songs for other people.
Yeah.
So is there one that is your favorite? If you know, is there a favorite part of the music business for you?
Yes. My favorite part of the business is being by myself and creating something. My next absolute favorite part, and this was a blessing that I came to, is actually singing for people. Okay? I know it sounds strange, but when you start off playing, or at least I did, you start off with these ideals, and you're going to be Jackson Browne, you're going to be a singer-songwriter, and people are going to come in and listen to your words, and then you're going to connect with people, because that's why you write songs, to connect with people, okay? To go, I feel this. Have you ever felt this? And when people go, yeah, I feel this, you don't feel alone in the world anymore. So I ended up, just writing these songs from my perspective, that's all.
Mm-hmm. So there's got to be some major differences then between sitting by yourself and writing a tune and sitting around the table with maybe 4 other songwriters that they're trying to create songs for Artist X. We've been told, okay, Artist X is going to do a new record. You guys write some hit songs that are songs that Artist X would do. Was that also an enjoyable process? Did you still feel like you could put yourself into the songwriting?
One of the most unsatisfying times I had was being signed as a staff songwriter in Nashville. And it was because it was pure business. My heroes sat and wrote songs, James Taylor, Jackson Browne, J.D. Souther, John Hyatt, they write these songs. Okay. The factory that is the songwriting in the major labels is you're called and so-and-so major artist is looking for a certain kind of song with a certain tempo, with a certain kind of subject. Now you and 4 other writers get together and go, okay, let's write us one of those. There's no soul in that, there's no heart in that, there's nothing in it except you're trying to make a buck. And I always say, if I wanted to do something shallow that was all about making money, I would have done something else than music. I came into music because it's magic and it's connecting with people and it's the best thing ever. You want me to do something shallow and self-centered just to make money. I'll go work in an office somewhere.
Well, I was actually gonna bring that up because similar to professional sports, you have not chosen a career that it is easy to quote unquote make it in, or even make a living in. So what has kept you, because we'll get in a little later to some of the dark side of the music business, but what's kept you going all this time?
Well, again, it's the process. You start off playing, you're really idealistic. You're going to write these beautiful songs, people are going to listen to them. It's going to be this thing you have in your head. Then you move on through the years and you realize you're playing bars and people are drinking and listening like you thought, and you become disillusioned. And you become disillusioned, but you're still doing it because you're stubborn and you need to play. You can tell the ones who need to play and the ones who like to play, because the ones who need to play always play. Okay? And little by little you're disillusioned. Now you're in a dark time. This is like the growth of the musician, okay? Now you're in the dark time, the disillusioned time where everyone you sing to, these people are all jerks, and this is not what I dreamed of, and all of these things are going on. And that's a real dark place to be, and it's not a really fun place to be, okay? And if you're really lucky like I was, you make it through that dark time, and you come out at the other end of the tunnel, and all of a sudden you look and you go, you know, I'm here at this place. There's all these people that have been coming to see me for 20, 30, 40 years, and they're all here, and they're still here. I'm a lucky guy. I love every one of you, and I'm a lucky guy. And you think just some years before you were cursing yourself. And I came to that with the song Midnight in Nowhere.
I was going to ask you specifically about that song, Brian, because I don't mind telling the audience that I've played a handful of gigs as your drummer.
Yes, we did.
And I noticed one of the songs, Midnight in Nowhere, that made the audience perk up. They bounced to it. But it's a dichotomy of a song because it seems rather resentful, if you don't mind me saying. But there's something that makes people say you're talking to me.
It taught me such a lesson. It was 20 years ago. Okay, so right. So I would have been at the in a darker, disillusioned time. And I wrote this song, Midnight in Nowhere. And it came from when I was playing this club, this stupid, awful, terrible club. There were 5 people in the club. I finished the song. Nobody did a word. It was dead quiet. And one guy turned around to me and said, "Hey, man, you know what time it is?" And I looked at my watch and I went, "Yeah, it's midnight." In nowhere.
Yeah.
And I had the song.
Yeah.
So I wrote this song, and it was, you're right, I thought it was brutal. And I'm writing this song going, no one will like this song. No one. Because they'll catch it. Mm-hmm. It's got like dark lines about them. You got, what am I looking at? Yeah. Stale conversation over empty beer. It was brutal. So I put it out and I went, well, that's the end of my career. Because everyone will know what a nasty guy I am. And the song came out and everybody came up to me and went, that's my song. And I couldn't figure it out for a while. And then I realized I had written a good song because it was totally me, but it somehow wasn't totally specific.
Okay.
And, okay. And so everyone else could relate. And that's what taught me the most valuable lesson, at least for me in my songs, how to be appreciated. The more specific I got in the lyric, the more general the appeal of the song was.
Right.
It was so strange to finally learn this, and the only way I figured it out was, that's because the deeper you dig and go into your heart about your secret feelings and then put those out, everyone's got those. And they respond immediately of, oh, I feel that. Mm-hmm. Okay? I can, yes. And from that moment, my songwriting changed too.
Well, I would imagine, and the thing about a great song is making people feel something. Do you use both the chords, the actual chords, and the lyrics? Do you try to create those in such a synonymous way that it makes people feel a certain way? Do you want people to interpret it their own way and feel what they feel?
Again, I have broader guidelines. This is my guideline if I want you to hear a song. I'm asking you to take 4 minutes of your life that you will never get back. You'll never be able to get those 4 minutes back. I'm asking you to take those 4 minutes and listen to my song. So once you raise the bar to that, you're immediately into, well, is this a song that's worth taking up your time with?
Fair question.
Is this worth taking up your valuable time for you to listen to my song? That puts the bar pretty high when you're writing a song.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah, sure it does.
It can't be just, wow, I'm clever, that sounds good, people might like this. It has to be, does it mean something? Will it be worth something to you to listen to my song? Even if it's a smile. But I always want to go deeper. I need to go deeper. I was class clown in high school. I know how to make people laugh. Okay? That's not a hard job for me. When I was in grammar school, if you were having a test, the other class would have the teacher would send someone from the other class to go, we don't have to take our test today if Brian will come in and entertain us for an hour.
Oh,
and I had to go in and I would just tell jokes and make them laugh, and an hour later I'd leave and they didn't have to take their test. So that's not a hard thing for me, okay?
Yeah. So you like the entertainment aspect of music as well?
I've changed over the years. I always was that guy that you know. Yeah, I'm that guy. Okay? What, is there an audience? Do they need entertaining?
Yeah.
That's me. But I didn't like it as much, like I said, in the dark time. And now I like it probably more than I ever did. Once I came out through and I would look out and just see everybody and just feel this like love for them. You're still here. You're still coming. I'm going to do good for you tonight. You know?
That must be what sort of carries it through, because I don't want to delve too much into this, but I bet you've seen some ugly sides of the music business. And what has still kept you, maintaining and especially still feeling that love?
Like I said, I worked major albums with major artists, and we won't mention names and things, but groundbreaking major artists, and I saw the money go to the manager, and the manager keep the money and send the artist to a cheap studio so he could keep money and party and get the drugs to the artist, so the artist would be so befuddled the artist wouldn't know that his money was over there, and all this was going down, and I was like 25 looking going, this is the business I'm in, okay? And over the years what kept me going was, it's the music. You can do whatever you want. You can try. But I'm all about the music.
So the rich and famous, is that a specific goal?
Never was.
Not for you. I mean, for the rich and famous, was that the goal in the music industry, or are there some that you really admire as songwriters that also happened to get very
to be successful?
Yeah.
Jackson Browne, right away. What he writes about, how he makes me feel, his lyrics, the intent of his songs. Jackson Browne strikes me deeply, still to this day. Yeah, I was a singer-songwriter guy. Yeah, I was out in LA before I came back here. That was my scene, The lyrical intent of a singer-songwriter was to connect and reach out to people and not necessarily be famous or have... That would come if you were successful, sure. But I also noticed how my heroes handle it. When I met and I got to hang out with Jackson Browne, he was Jackson Browne. He was the guy you think he was, okay? Soulful, intent, and nice, and glad to meet you, all right? Yeah. I've met others that weren't that wonderful. Little Feat were incredible to hang with them. World's greatest piano player asking me about my gigs.
And nice, yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, and that's a lesson you learn. I felt like I was 10 feet tall when that famous guy was asking, well, I hear you play a lot of gigs. Tell me about your music. What kind of music?
Yeah.
I felt incredible. So I remember that every time at a bar someone comes up to me, I used to think, what do you want from me? I'm just singing in a bar. And then I realized that was awful. That was not nice. That was bad. What you got to do is you got to value everyone's contact with you, because that someone at that bar thinks you're real good.
Well,
And so you go, thank you. I go
Yeah.
over to every table. I talk to them all. You can ask all the people. They all know me by name. I'm Brian. Okay?
So, what is that? That's interesting too. One of my favorite singer-songwriters, Trey Anastasio. I heard his wife describe him once as the great communicator. That's why he writes. What's your purpose? Is it to communicate a message? Is it to relate to people? Why do you do what you do?
I do what I do because I need their connection. I don't do what I do to tell them a story or to do anything, but if I throw something out there and they tell me, yes, I've felt this way before, then I feel connected and I don't feel so alone in this world. I need them. If they need to hear my music to make themselves feel better, I'm blessed doubly. But just being able to write it and have someone say, yes, I feel this, that's my song, then I feel connected to this world.
There you go.
It's really a selfish thing. I need you.
Oh no.
Okay.
Well, I think both sides get served by that. So unfortunately, we're starting to run a little bit low on time. But I know that you were a huge fan, for lack of a better phrase, of Warren Zevon. You admire him a lot. But then you had a really, really cool thing happen. Could you just share that?
Sure, I can
share
make
that
it quick.
Story. Yeah.
Okay. Warren Zevon, many of you know, one of the greatest songwriters we've ever produced. Okay, you may only know him as Werewolves of London, but you should look into his song catalog. He wrote a lot of hits for Linda Ronstadt. Springsteen sang his songs. Everyone I admire sang Warren Zevon songs. So this gentleman named George Gruhl, who was Warren Zevon's best friend, confidant, aide de camp, helped keep him alive during the dark years, came out with a book called Lawyers, Guns, and Photos, off Lawyers, Guns, and Money, Warren's song. Lawyers, Guns, and Photos. And it was all photos of Warren in the heyday of his career and everything. And it was pictures of Warren, Springsteen, the Eagles, everybody, Linda Ronstadt, everybody. And then there's a paragraph in there, and I got the book, and there's a paragraph in there, and it says, I've never heard Warren's songs sung with more feeling than I did by a guy in a bar in Hartford named Brian McDonald. The book goes around the world. He's on the cover of the book with a T-shirt with my picture on it. Next thing I know, my career is resurrected. I got fans, a cult following that are going for all my old albums. They come out of print, and all because of that. And so we have our third annual Warren Zevon convention, East Coast. In June.
Didn't you also get brought out to
I got flown out to
California
LA, to sing. I got flown around to sing at a bunch of George's book signing parties.
Oh, cool.
And that's how I developed a whole new, my career was dormant. Out comes this book. All of a sudden, all 4 of my albums are back up on the internet, selling like mad, and I got a whole new cult audience of fans. And, you know, again, thankful and blessed.
There you go. Is that one of the highlights of your career? Is it hard to describe what a highlight would be?
The early stuff that I did, a lot of the early stuff, you know, I was playing with James Taylor and Don McLean, and you know, I'm playing at the Hartford Civic Center and all these things, but those happened real young, and they have a different haze to them. You know the saying, the older you get, the more it means.
Yeah.
So to have this happen in a late part of my career, and all of a sudden all these people come around out of nowhere and say, well, who's this Brian? Hey, and I'm on the social media going, who are you listening to today? Brian McDonald, I love him. I'm like, again, thank you, powers that be.
Yeah. Are you still doing a lot of live gigs?
Yeah, I do.
Mostly solo or band?
Solo.
Okay.
Solo's scary, because that's it. You and your guitar, and you got to entertain people for 3 hours. On the other hand, when you're doing it, there's nothing like it. Your adrenaline jumps, your heart rate is racing. There you are. It's just you and a guitar. I don't use effects, looping. I don't do any of that stuff. It's me and a guitar. I'm going to tell you a story, and I hope I can entertain you. And that's really the most fun I've had also in, I don't know how long.
That's cool. So in some ways, I feel like an old fuddy-duddy. You know, back in my day, the music was so great. I know our generation loves to talk about how great the music was of our time. Are we being unfair? Is there great music that's being produced today, or is it different?
There's great music out there. It's harder to find it, and it's swamped with robotic machine music. I like organic music played by human beings. But everyone with a laptop can sit in their bedroom. They'll provide you with a beat, they'll give you a chord change, and you can come up with those video game melodies that seem to be, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, what is this, Donkey Kong? Okay?
Yeah.
I prefer organic music with people making music with the same intent I do. There are young bands out there. There's a band named Dawes, D-A-W-E-S. They were the other band mentioned in the Warren Zevon book.
Oh, okay.
And they got picked up by Jackson Browne, and they're off touring with Jackson Browne because he read about them in the book. They're wonderful. So there are young bands making real good music, but there's no center of gravity anymore. So 1 billion people are putting out an album a day. How do you separate yourself? You just go find your audience, and you just settle for what you can. I'm not a nostalgic guy. I don't look back and I don't delve in nostalgia. I deal with the world I'm in at the moment and move forward, and I'm glad to be there. If I go too nostalgic, it prevents me from moving forward.
Well, there you go. And is there? Do you know what's next? Do you feel like there's more music in you? What are your plans?
Yeah, I'm all
right
revitalized now. We'll do the ZCon convention. Then I'm going to probably go down to Philly and play some dates. And then I'm going to start a new album in the fall with Rick again because I got more things to say all of a sudden.
No kidding. That's great. He's another well-known.
Yes, he is. Rick Anvil's one of those wonder-kind guys. You know, you're a virtuoso who doesn't overplay.
Yeah.
Where do you find that?
Well, right. Well, I've always believed that sometimes the beauty of the music is between the notes.
Yep.
So, you know, I have 8,000 more things to ask you, but we are sadly out of time. We've reached that moment where we have to wrap things up. But I just want to say thank you for being an awesome first guest on
it was great being here,
Spotlight
my
On. It's going to be, we've set the bar very high. So for whoever the next guests are, they have some big shoes to fill. But thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We hope you love the show. We loved bringing it to you. I'm Mike Kaiser. We'll see you next time.